going live. You're live. Technology today. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Jeefy. Jeff. Jeefy.
I'm Bob, Mr. Bobby Tables, across pretty much everything.
Welcome to Scuffed Stream 2022, also known as stream that we just cobbled together because we thought it could be fun and could be interesting. Our goals here are to be honest and relaxed, if you can't tell. It's blizzard outside, and we've got coffee, and I think my dog is about to run over and sit on my feet. So hopefully we've made it clear this is not going to be a formal conversation. This is going to be more of a fireside chat. Yeah, if anything, this is the opposite of formal. Keep that in mind. That said, there are a couple housekeeping rules before we get started, just because there always have to be.
So we both have jobs in the space. He works for the CNCF, I work for Google, but at least on this call, we are definitely not representing our companies. I am not wearing a little Google beanie. He is, well, the CNCF doesn't really have an official hat, but this is just sort of Jeff and Bob just chatting, just without the hot tub. And as such, there might be pivots in conversations to things like D&D, Final Fantasy 14, gaming, cars, whatever. And while there is no formal code of conduct, we are not going to tolerate people being inconsiderate jerks. Essentially, it boils down to the same thing we repeat in every Kubernetes SIG call. Please be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
This is our first time doing this, so kind of like real-time feedback is welcome. We're going to try and pay attention to the chat. I wish I kind of actually had a picture of this setup. It is very much cobbled together, so we will do our best.
Yes.
And with that, you want to kick it off?
Yep. So I kind of had a goal with this stream. I wanted to go over, some of the highlights of 2022. Acknowledge some of the lowlights. It's always good to at least acknowledge and talk about things that could have gone better, things that we could see improvement on. Also make some probably safe predictions about 2023. I have a couple bold predictions about 2023. And then in the end, I just kind of wanted to nerd out. Full disclosure, Bob and I wrote a page of notes. And all we're really going to do is use those notes as cues, and then you're going to kind of see Bob and I just do what we normally do behind closed doors. Because I made it clear, hey, dump a couple things in here, and then let's not talk about them until today. Because, yet again, I think it's kind of interesting seeing he and I mind meld. Because I also know he and I have a couple disagreements on this thing.
Yeah.
So, 2022 highlights. My big one was Detroit.
I'll second that. Honestly, Detroit, Michigan, it's home turf and everything. But despite that, I still think it was quite possibly my favorite KubeCon.
Yeah.
The only other one that might top it or come close would be Copenhagen. I think it was back in 2018.
Copenhagen was 2018 because I did Seattle 2018.
Yep.
You managed to get to Austin 2017, the snowpocalypse,
Yep.
and then you did Copenhagen. Then I went with you to Seattle.
Yep.
What was good about Copenhagen?
The venue was nice. The people were nice. It was very walkable, and the all attendee party was essentially in a old timey theme park.
Oh shit, nice. Everything that he said, I agree with. I grew up. My parents grew up around Detroit. My parents actually grew up more in Detroit, and my grandmother and grandfather lived literally in Detroit. I was over there at least once a month, and it felt like home turf. I always kind of get an eye twitch when someone knocks or talks negatively about Detroit. It's like it's a big city.
Dude,
It's
if you go to parts of San Francisco or any other place, there's going to be homeless people.
Yep.
There's going, you know,
that's a
Yeah.
whole other thing that we could talk about. But it's like when you have a conference in an urban setting like that, usually in the US, there's going to be issues. But even then, like, I don't believe there were many issues. I saw a couple on Twitter.
Yeah, there was only one that I really saw on Twitter, but I don't think there was anything that actually came up. Like there was nothing in the event report.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it either. I remember eating a lot of good food.
Lots of pizza. Lots of Detroit pizza. I am totally blanking on the place that we wound up a few times. What was it?
Nicky's.
Nicky's. Yeah.
I pulled a fast one on pretty much everyone. I was telling everyone to go to Buddy's because Buddy's had the
It is kind of the stereotypical known Michigan
Buddy's
place.
Buddy's was the first
The
chain
founder of
Yeah.
Detroit style pizza.
and they were the first chain, and Buddy's in downtown had the capacity to take a lot of people in without reservations, right? But I always went to Nicky's as a kid. And so that's usually where I sent people when they directly asked me.
And there are people's opinions, and I would definitely say Nicky's has better pizza.
I grew up on it.
Plus, for like the price of one, hoity-toity dinner, you can feed 12 people,
Yeah.
which we did multiple times.
Yeah. It worked out. I mean, personal highlight for me was our keynote. I feel like that went well, but I also don't want to
Yeah.
stroke my ego a little too much.
But not like even outside of some of the problems with getting up to the top floor, the all attendee
Yeah.
party was great. It was wonderful being able to just like talk and see people again.
One of the pieces of feedback I gave to the events team was, it was a good idea, but next time you plan an all attendee party, maybe don't have it be bottlenecked by an elevator.
Like
They do what they
if
can.
it was like just like the end user event or something like that, I think it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But not necessarily for the all attendees.
I feel like they had the space and they were just trying to maximize the use for the space because they only needed half for
Yeah.
that end user event, and then it's like, what are we going to do with the other half?
Yeah. But yeah, the boat was awesome. And I didn't actually get to see the main event space, but like from pictures and feedback from other people, that like I heard really positive things.
Yeah. Big thing that I was excited about and very much kind of hyping up was just the fact that everything was so walkable. In my opinion, for the amount of, to me, this was like the most walkable CubeCon I've been to. Let me go through the thought process here.
San Diego was pretty walkable.
Ooh, you're right. You're right. San Diego had like maybe a 4 or 5 minute longer walk to the venue, but from the hotels to anywhere else you wanted to go around the area, yeah, you're right. Actually, San Diego was more walkable.
Seattle
point.
might have been if it weren't for the weather.
Well, no, the other thing was like with Seattle, at least where we stayed and where I think the main venue hotel was, it's just you're in the center of the event space, so it's like a 2 or 3 block walk to anything other than the one Indian restaurant and then like a food court. With San Diego, it was
There was options everywhere.
you throw a rock and then there's like 3 restaurants. With Detroit, it was the people that were staying at the Rensen had kind of a mixed bag. They had a little bit longer of a walk, but they were also closer to Greek Town and being able to walk to that food.
Yeah.
Home turf is still going to win out for me though. Anything else for Detroit?
Summit was awesome.
Summit was awesome.
The Kubernetes Contributor Summit will continue to be my favorite part of KeepCon.
Yep.
Outside of just being able to get together and see people.
Yep. Shout out to George Castro for housing Bob and I for the days leading up to it, because we both went out early and visited family, and it was very nice.
Yep.
I think that's it for Detroit.
Yeah.
Next one is kind of more your thing.
A little bit. So, Istio and Knative were donated to the CNCF. Istio is still in the process, but Knative is done.
Yeah.
The
intent to donate.
The intent to donate. So so fun little fact. I tend to get really particular on wording because like I see vendors and all that, just tweeting or putting out articles like, "Hey, we've donated this project to the CNCF." I'm like, "Sorry, no, you have submitted the project to the TOC for review, so that way it can potentially be accepted to the CNCF." There is a chance it might not be, or it might go back for various reasons, or like you're doing something like using GPL license code all over the place, and that delays it. Sorry.
There's also the we are provisionally accepting it given that you do A, B, and C, one of which might be relicensing some of the code somehow.
Yep. I'm that is something I'm very particular about after seeing some news announcements and things like that.
Bob and I were working on our keynote, and then an announcement came out that Bob hadn't seen, and it was, we'll say, semi-official, and we couldn't work on our keynote anymore because Bob was going into like chats going, "What the fuck did you do?"
Yeah. We'll touch about that one.
Yeah.
Either way, I to be frank, like I haven't been involved with Knative all that much and haven't really followed it. But Istio going to the CNCF is definitely a long time coming.
Yeah. And they both make total sense. Like in terms of ecosystem and landscape, there's other this isn't trying to break new ground. There's already serverless frameworks within the CNCF. There's, SMI, Cilium, a bunch of other service mesh, projects. Yep. It just makes sense. And also the fact that both are leapfrogging Sandbox going into incubating also makes a whole lot of sense.
Yep. To be frank, again, I'm not trying to say this with like a Google hat on or anything like that. But Istio, honestly, probably could be I would say they're graduated. This is largely because they're being used in enterprises all over the place already, and it's being used inside Google. It's being used inside everywhere in large production settings.
Yeah.
It's very well documented. There are definitely pain points.
There's pain points with Kubernetes though.
Yeah, but in terms of day 2 operations and things like that, there's still issues.
Yeah.
But I would looking at the Sandbox incubating graduated, and when it comes to people adopting them, I would say that Istio would be counted is up there for graduated.
Yeah.
But
hashtag TOC things.
Well, no, I get it. The other thing is why, if a project is graduated and is doing well outside the CNCF,
mm-hmm.
What is the point of donating it to the CNCF? What does the CNCF actually give the project if it is already in a graduated state?
Do you want me to try and answer that?
If you want.
So those are rare instances, right? Most projects that are coming into the CNCF are a hair above POCs, right?
Yeah.
And you have some like Cilium that came in, they've been well adopted, they have an ecosystem around them, but maybe they aren't. I don't want to say as stable because I mean I use Cilium in my home lab,
Dude,
right?
I've been using
We've been using Cilium since we worked
so
at the university.
I've been an eBPF and XDP fanboy since like 2016. And Cilium was like the first drop. Like as soon as I saw it, I rolled it out.
Yep. But like projects like that, the CNCF can help grow and mature. It can also help them network. And the other main thing is it can help them gain adoption in these larger companies.
But if it is a project that already has large enterprise adoption,
I don't think we give them that much. I think
Yeah.
the main thing that happens is other projects get the benefit by having more of an
it's a multiplier.
Yeah, it's a multiplier. Like
And an ecosystem multiplier.
it will Istio gain something from the CNCF? I think so, but
Yeah,
I think it'll be smaller compared to the
I-
net positive that Istio will help other
I
projects.
honestly think like the big thing STO will get out of it is more exposure and direct feedback from end users.
I think, well, you might be able to tell me more. I think Istio will also get more feedback from developers and maintainers being in the CNCF.
I don't know. Potentially. We'll see.
Yeah.
They already have a pretty close working relationship with Envoy. So, and like there's other things that like I believe Envoy's WASM plugin was mostly developed for. I might be wrong, but I think it was largely developed for Istio.
Oh,
So there's other like extension points and things like that. And yeah.
good.
Yeah.
2022 highlight for me. This is something that Bob and I both have been watching this. I think I've been a little bit more keen on it, at least initially. But Sigstore. Sigstore managed to GA 1.0, whatever you want to call it this year. A lot of their tooling has begun to mature. The services that they are hosting for the public good are a little more stable. I still don't think they're SLA'd, but they're a little more stable.
It is not staffed with SREs at all right now monitoring service.
A little more stable. But in general, just the movement that is happening with both Sigstore and the supply chain security ecosystem in general. It's been heartening and kind of encouraging to see.
Yeah. I really like Sigstore. I like the ecosystem, the tooling. For those that might know, we did a talk, like a workshop on it and everything. But I do not think it should have been GA'd yet. There's just
I want to know more.
Yeah. So there are other things outside of a project itself that I would consider important before going GA, like having consistent release processes and things like that. That from at least my observation externally, Sigstore doesn't have yet. And like there were other things that we even ran into, and with like the demo and all that, where stuff was just like
I was for our tutorial was on a Tuesday, and then Monday afternoon I ran through the demo that we had written 2 weeks prior, and it was broken, and I was like, why God, why? And had to rewrite it.
Yeah. To me there are like certain things that come with a 1.0 or GA that I think do extend beyond it, and I don't think Sigstore is there yet, is my personal opinion.
Un momento. I can see why. I can see why you do think that. I don't I don't entirely disagree. I just think that they're being aggressive about it.
Yeah,
No.
aggressive
I
with
shouldn't
a
see.
GA stable release that's like supposed to signify, okay, you can adopt this. Everything
I
about it is good.
I shouldn't say aggressive because that's almost me saying, "Hey, 6 stars." No. I mean, like, their timelines were aggressive, and no matter what, they were sticking to them. Now, could part of that be, you know,
Something shouldn't GA because of a date.
Sig Store and Chain Guard are like, Venn diagram right here.
I know.
And there may have been Chain Guard internal things pushing that. So, I mean, there could be that.
There's always corporate stuff in open source. Well, not always, but like a lot of it. But yeah. I would have rather seen some other things come to fruition first before announcing GA.
I think announcing GA is more right now more like a pre-GA to get hype.
It's like we're a release candidate.
Yeah. Hey,
our C 1.0.
We're GA. Please adopt things and use it so we can now try and get more momentum to fix some of the problems that we're brushing away. Okay. I know these two are like very, very, I mean, to me, these are like from an open source point of view, top of mind.
Yeah.
Docker shim removal.
So yeah, this is my big one. So for those that might not be familiar, Kubernetes removed the Docker shim from the project technically end of last year. Well, no, necessarily not technically end of last year, but like in the release at the beginning of the year.
124, I believe, was actual Docker shim removal.
Yeah. And
what is Docker shim?
God damn. Go to keats.io/Docker shim. But the biggest thing is like, so Kubernetes had a tight integration with Docker, the container runtime, for many, many years, where you could basically bypass the container runtime interface that all other container runtimes use and just use Docker natively.
Yeah.
The big problem is that this was very old and very originally tightly integrated, and Docker the company, Docker the project, everyone did not want to maintain it anymore.
Yep.
And rightfully so. Like, there is an official supported mechanism that everything else has to use. Why should Docker be different? And everyone kind of it increased. It had a whole slew of dependencies. It had security vulnerabilities. There's a whole slew of reasons why it was also just like a pain in the ass on a maintenance side to like deal with. The big problem is that was sort of the default go-to for everyone. Yep. And
even for the home lab that I have.
Yeah. So it was a large breaking change, and I would actually consider it probably the largest breaking change for the project so far. This
is like true story. This is how I am. Did I tell you what happened to my servers?
No. Did you just like upgrade and
broke everything, and then I was like, why the shit isn't this working? Oh my god.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, API version 124. Oh god, why? And then I had to go back and like switch everything to containerd.
Yeah. Thankfully, like, we did a lot of work on the comms, and like updating all our documentation and everything like that. And in general, like I think it's been pretty smooth. Like there hasn't been like nearly the amount of um, you know, negative feedback and things like that we got when we first announced that it was going to be deprecated.
That's because I mean, cloud native is complicated. The phrase make cloud native ubiquitous is kind of repeated over and over, but I think the more important thing is to try and make cloud native more, I don't know, digestible, simpler.
The problem is you're like it's not going to be simple.
I know, but what I'm trying to get at is, you tell people, hey, Kubernetes is removing Docker shim. How many people know what Docker shim actually is? More to a point, how many people actually like hear the word shim and know what shim is? Yeah. And like
anyone that was already spinning up a different container runtime.
Yeah, and you know what? They were fine. Yeah. But it was the 70-80% of folks that are running Kubernetes for their smaller company or their university. They see, hey, we're deprecating Docker shim, and they're like, oh my God, Docker's going away. Yeah. And it's like, well, no. But
yeah,
that was the panic.
The other thing, and I see this as a forum admin on the Kubernetes end user forum, like all the friggin' old blogs, like people are following like, hey, I'm following these instructions from this random website, and like, why doesn't it work anymore? And I go take a look at the blog or something like that, and
Kubernetes 1.8.
Yeah, I'm stuff from ages ago, and it's just like, well, there is a problem. Or they're following tutorial where nothing is pinned to versions, and they're following like, okay, it's like install Docker, install kubeadm, and go. That's not going to work anymore. Like, nope. And there's a lot of bad, and not even necessarily bad, but like outdated blogs and content out there, and that I think is a big problem.
I don't think there's a solution to that either.
No.
Like, I mean, me doing
that, there isn't a solution to it outside of like, as an end user,
consumer. Don't say end user. Consumer of the technology.
As a consumer, be smarter.
As a consumer, recognize a blog post or a Stack Overflow from 2017 might not be
applicable anymore.
I was gonna say accurate, but
honestly, I wish that like a lot of that stuff, it could just like age out. But
or
have a big banner that says like, hey,
dude, actually,
we do that on the Kubernetes.io website.
Well, I'm thinking like Stack Overflow, you can have like things hashtagged Kubernetes, right?
Yep.
I think it would be really interesting if you could do, after say 2 years,
just like, hey, this might not be accurate anymore.
Yeah, this might not be accurate anymore. Kubernetes is a high velocity project.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Yep.
That would actually be really interesting. Next up, registry. Yep. Registry.kates.io. So, I mean, I'll let you talk of it a bit more, but the background is Kubernetes is kind of a well-consumed project.
It costs millions of dollars to surf artifacts every year, just in the downloads.
Yep. So you have the debs and RPMs,
which technically don't come out of the budget.
You have the actual binaries
and the container images.
And then the container images. And those images are consumed quite a lot, really. I mean, any non-air-gapped Kubernetes installation is going to be pulling from these images.
That isn't vendored.
That's kind of what I meant. Like,
so like your EKS, your GKEs, and things like that.
They will have their own, usually have their own mirrors.
Yeah.
But the home lab I keep referring to, pulls that right from
Yep.
Kates.io. The Kubernetes project was running out of budget this year, and we noticed that
it ran out of money this year. And
There have been, the other thing is there have been efforts to try and solve this issue, because let's look at it this way. Right now, I shouldn't say, we'll say 2 months ago, just for the sake of, CYA. 2 months ago, Google was serving all of the artifacts and images, right?
Yep.
Just boom. But you have a lot of folks that are spinning up Kubernetes in Amazon.
50% of the traffic.
You have a lot of
images from Google were coming from Amazon.
You have a lot of people spinning up Kubernetes from Microsoft and Azure. You have people spinning them up in the basement. You have people spinning them up everywhere. They're all pulling from the Google-owned resources specifically, and that's problematic. And there are ways to make that more efficient.
This is where it's like, the Hobbit share the load.
Share the load.
Type thing really comes in, because like
potatoes.
Yeah.
Container.
God damn it. Anyway, the switching to the old address to registry.keats.io, and Amazon and others joining in are now helping distribute that. And honestly, it's a long time coming. It's a better experience for everyone.
I mean, when you think about it, I'm spinning up a Kubernetes cluster in Amazon. I have to then download it essentially from Google rather than from the same data center. Yeah, exactly. Just the user experience is going to benefit everyone.
The one caveat is the people that are like that set up like allow lists based off IP ranges and DNS names.
Yeah.
And now you just will not be able to do that anymore. It is. We've basically said that is not stable. We are going to add and remove mirrors as resources come and go from us. So if you need that sort of thing, do what you should do, and should have done from the beginning, and run a local mirror.
I mean, maybe this is just us always being ahead of the curve.
Yes,
we were running this. We were running this shit at the university.
Yeah, we
in 2016.
Like like this is a problem that's been a recognized issue for years. And literally the first thing I did when I got a job at ARC was set up a pull through cache and a mirror of these things. So like that has been sort of the standard, like the SOP for best practices for years.
Yeah,
it's just people didn't because it was convenient.
Yeah, I mean, okay, fair. It is one other thing that you have to run yourself. That sucks. You know what else sucks? If for some reason the remote mirror goes down or your internet goes down, but you have a bunch of stuff that's trying to pull from it, and then it fails and everything crashes. Especially if you're dealing with like intranet based applications, it's like you should be relying on the internet as little as possible anyways. Oh, patient care. Yeah. Oh no.
We've been best friends for freaking forever. We technically met in 98 in a Babylon 5 chat room, but we've been roommates. We worked together for most of the time. Our houses were like across the street from each other. And right now I'm like 5 houses down in that way.
Where's the front door?
The back,
front. So, you're there.
I'm 5 houses that way.
Yeah, to the point where, the temperature outside was -4 and he still walked over here.
Yeah.
You did walk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I grew up in Michigan. This is not a huge change.
No, it's not.
We're also like halfway through typically.
Halfway through?
30 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, let's put it this way, like we still have plenty more we can talk about. The registry stuff, I think, is going to pick up a lot more next year. At least the effort to try and solve it.
Yeah. And for all of you on 1.21,
yep,
this change has been backported to 1.22. Please, like, if you can't upgrade to 1.22 for whatever reason, please at least update the like image mirror, so that way you're pulling from the proxy instead of the old GCR directly.
Yeah, keep in mind just because you have installed and are running Kubernetes once doesn't mean you're not continually pulling images from these resources. That's actually
Yeah, the pause container.
Pause container.
The pause container is like, I think that's like hard coded in container D at one point. Well, it wasn't just like other things had it like hard coded in there. So like,
deep breath.
yeah.
Deep breath. Okay. I've got two personal 2022 highlights.
Okay.
One is I moved to Minnesota in November of 2021. And he moved to Minnesota March of 2022. So highlight one. Highlight two is I had a trip to Japan planned and had been planning it since 2018, and I was supposed to go in May of 2020. And then that didn't happen. And then we rescheduled it for May of 2021. And that didn't happen. And then we rescheduled it for May 2022. And that didn't happen. And then we scheduled it for the week after KubeCon Detroit, November 2022. And I went. And that was an awesome experience. That's one
How
of
was
those.
it going right from KubeCon to Japan?
Real talk, it was difficult because, I mean, he and I have already talked. We both understand. Like,
Yeah.
we were both burnt the fuck out
Yeah.
after Detroit. But the problem was, I also had so many follow-ups from Detroit that I didn't feel like I was truly on vacation until 2 days before I got back.
Yeah.
And like part of it was a long flight into a long train ride. Like getting there was kind of long.
Yeah.
The first few days was a lot more walking, almost like hiking than I was expecting. And so that was like,
What would you say your average like step count or whatever it was? There was some stat you gave me of like
yeah. On average, we were doing like 27,000 steps a day. It was like 12 to 15 miles. It was insane.
Yeah.
And then there was one night where we just straight up climbed a mountain, Mount Inari, which I hated during. Thought it was amazing once we were up at the top, at the like top shrine, and I would absolutely do it again. Completely. It was torture on the way up. I was in a mood. Like I know that I was in a mood, but once I was up there, I was just like, I took a deep breath, looked around, and was like, this is really nice. This is so cool. Like I felt almost like inner peace.
Okay,
I was
the
just
pain was worth it.
The pain was worth it. But yeah, it took a lot of time for me to actually like fully relax. It's almost like, a knot or a Charlie horse, and like just you kind of have to stretch it out and stretch it out and stretch it out. It took forever for me to get there. Eventually I did, and it was amazing. We're definitely going to be going back. That's I'm excited for that. So now we're at the tippy top. Now I'm going to bring us back down. Some lowlights, in my opinion, or I guess our opinion, of not really opinion for some of these. They freaking suck. One of them, in my opinion, I didn't like Valencia.
Didn't like what? Wow.
Part of it might be the first day that I had, and the fact that it took forever for me to get a room. I met a very, very weird dude in the hotel lobby that
was offering you illicit substances.
Yes. He was
and other services.
Yeah. That was weird. I didn't like the cab situation. I didn't like having to take a cab pretty much every morning to get to the venue. I mean, maybe public transportation would have been, decent for me, but I just didn't because I'm gassed at that point. I just want to get there and start doing.
I remember trying to get a taxi. I think it was the first Saturday night, and it took me. Well, I gave up after 2 hours.
That was after the summit.
No, this was Saturday. Like, cause I went to the beach to see someone else.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
It might have been Sunday, but like, it took like I gave up after 2 hours, and then got a taxi with someone else that was going in the same direction, and got closer, and then was able to get a taxi from there back to my hotel.
Jeez.
I do think Valencia had its problems, but I thought the con itself was still pretty good.
I would agree with that. I would go to Valencia 10 out of 10 times over Barcelona.
Oh God, yeah.
I loved Valencia, the city. I loved the food, the culture. I loved the vibe. I remember walking back from
the one random Italian.
Oh, the random Italian place we went.
That was actually like really, really, really good.
It was incredible, and that was the night that I think Christoph and I wound up walking back, and it's like 2 a.m. and we're just walking back like everyone's still awake. What is this? I loved Valencia, the city, but I think the other thing for me was my flight out was rough.
Our flight out,
and I'm getting there. The first 24 hours in the city was awful for me, and then the 24 hours trying to get out was awful for me.
There was I don't think it was a strike, but we're flying through Amsterdam, and
CDG.
Well, no, we were originally flying through. Well, I was flying originally through Amsterdam.
I was still flying through CDG because I didn't know better.
Yeah, I warned him. I told him not to go through CDG, and he did it anyway.
Some things I need to learn on my own.
So, but yeah, there was something in Amsterdam, and that like flight there got canceled. Was able to rebook on a flight going through CDG, and that was. I do everything in my power to avoid CDG, the main international airport in Paris.
So here was the full thing though. We get to the airport at
there's one person.
6 a.m.
Yep.
There's one person at the like check-in gate. Yep. They eventually staff it up, but I get up there and I'm going, hey, I've got 40 minutes in order for me to get to my connecting flight in CDG. And she went, oh, no problem. I'll rebook you for the next flight going from CDG to Minneapolis. And so I'm like, that's awesome. Thank you. I lean over to Bob, who's next in line, and go, hey, man, have them rebook you on this flight.
Yeah.
And then we can just, take a lift back home. And it'll be fine. We'll be on the same flight and we can chill in CDG together. And he was like, oh, all right. And then no sooner than I turn back and this same lady goes, I kept you on the same flight. And I go, okay.
Admittedly, I was also flying the Delta Premier.
Yeah, premium.
Not like, first class, but like the...
It's like premium select or something. It's like the one right behind it. And I was like, okay, I guess, it's 40 minutes. I'm screwed, but I'll give it a shot. I watched them, I saw the gate close about 100 yards from where I was. And I got up there and they were like, sorry. Yeah. And then I had to spend 2.5 hours standing in line, which I had Paris was messaging me, can I get you anything? Yeah. I was getting so much love from my friends, and I love you. But I was just like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to sit in this line. And
friends make CDG tolerable.
Friends make CDG tolerable. And then what winds up happening, I get up there, and then they book me on the same flight that I wanted to get rescheduled down to anyways. But I had to deal with 3 hours of stress. It was like, all right, that's Valencia for me. Yeah. Valencia was honestly good, just outside of, the travel drama.
Yeah.
I did not like it.
Um, one big low light for me was we lost someone in the Kubernetes community this year. Cody Crudgington and
Yeah.
Cody Crudge, the Crudge,
The Crudge.
who has this, like, he's helped out with a lot of, like, the non-code stuff in the project, and like has helped with summits and helped run like the award ceremonies in past years. And he passed. I don't remember exactly how long before the KubeCon this time around, but
It was
that-
it was pretty soon before.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say a month and a half.
so the within Kubernetes we've had two other people pass, but like we have a memorial page and everything. And one thing that is kind of I don't want to, like, I don't know the right word for it, like take away the impact of their passing. But when you're a project our size with 70,000 some odd people, like I'm on the steering committee, and us of steering, we have a like a playbook now, essentially, when someone passes, just because that is the, you know,
You can. We haven't talked about this, by the way. This is the first I heard about that. You can have a playbook
Yeah.
so that you have a measured, thoughtful response.
yeah.
That doesn't take away.
No, like I know it's just, it's like, you know, stuff like, you know, how covering like how we talk about it in the community, how we inform people, you know, how do we set up, you know, memorials or like route funds or whatever to the family and various things like that. It was something I didn't think I would ever have to like deal with directly as like as an open source maintainer, but like, you know, when a project gets to a certain size, it's kind of, you know, kind of the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Well,
Take it from a very down note to,
take it from a very down note to a comically down note.
yeah, yeah, RIP Twitter.
I don't know. I've been on Twitter since '07. Medford. That's actually how I think about it.
Our first real apartment together.
I've been on Twitter since Medford. And that was 06 to '08. Yeah, that was 06 to '08. So I've been on Twitter forever. I get, like, some people think it's a cesspool. I don't disagree to some extent, but I also think, like, Twitter was an interesting cross section of the internet in such a way that Twitter and Reddit are like the same thing to me. It's just one's more structured.
Well,
one's more
the big
structured.
thing for me with Twitter is like, it's perfectly acceptable to go like tag a random person that you've never met, or like, you know, people do it in Reddit sometimes too, and there's certain people like Arnold that will just like respond, but like, you know,
Or Brandon Sanderson.
yeah, but like, last year when I did my big, you know, the books I read of 2021, like, and I tagged some of the authors, some of them were responding to me, and so it's kind of like,
Wait, who responded?
King's the Wild.
Oh, Eames.
Yeah, Eames, who's, and then there was another one that Adrian he did the Children of Memory, Children of Time.
Is it
I
Tchaikovsky?
can't pronounce his last name, but like, it's cool, like, you know.
Yeah, it's Tchaikovsky.
Yeah. That, like, you know, just some things it was like that one time where I randomly bumped into Orson Scott Card, like, and
Yeah.
Yeah, like that sort of thing just kind of happens on Twitter, and you don't get that elsewhere.
Not really.
Maybe Mastodon here in the future, but like that.
Well, the thing with Mastodon is it's not one giant pool that everyone is currently, swimming around in. It's a bunch of kiddie pools,
With
and you're
some
kind of
interconnecting
kind of
networks.
looking around, maybe splashing, elsewhere. I I don't think Mastodon will replace Twitter. Whether that is for the greater good or not, we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Um, you want to hear another personal one on my note?
Sure.
Yeah. Brand new roof, brand new windows, and our AC unit, all in a year.
That's like me at my old place.
I know. I'm glad. Well, I'm not glad it's happening to us. I'm just glad it's not happening to you again.
My old place, like, was never actually to make any improvements to it because things like I just kept having to drop money into like fixing the house over and over and over and over again because the inspector did not do the best job.
As Amy will always tell me, the house always wins.
Yep.
All right, 2023 safe predictions.
Yep.
I have 2.5.
Okay.
The first one, everyone is going to expect this, but not necessarily in the way that I think. WASM, WebAssembly. I think we're going to see WASM adoption increase, but I think it's going to be because it is a lot easier to package plugins, user-defined functions, all of that as a WASM module that system can consume.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in the minority. I don't know what people really think or how strongly they feel. I don't think WASM is going to replace Kubernetes.
No,
I don't think WASM is going to replace the container runtime.
I don't either. I think they're complementary.
Exactly. I think and the way that you can do that is building systems that allow plugins and then have the plugins be in like a consumable, easy to use format.
Yeah.
That it to me is the like perfect slot in for WASM.
So yeah, like a good example I can think of would be, people have used like OPA with Rego and defining policies and things like that.
Yeah.
But like I'm actually more hopeful for, I think it's Kubeborden, where you can basically just use WASM to
I'm looking this up.
okay, to do the policy evaluation and all that with that.
Writing policies using your favorite programming language, as long as it can be compiled into WebAssembly.
Yeah. So the big thing I think, like outside of like I think one of the reasons why WASM will see more adoption is you'll be, for at least if it's a supported language, being able to, you don't have to learn something else. Your staff doesn't have to know yet another language, yet another thing. When you could basically just compile it down to WASM. There are like there are other things like people. There's I talked about this earlier with it, like with Envoy.
Yep.
And being able to pass, like I think it's HTTP filters, and have WASM modules like evaluate those. It reminds me kind of like Lua and Nginx.
I was just gonna bring up Lua and Nginx, but to me, like, this is even better. I don't have to learn.
You don't have to learn Lua.
I don't have to learn Lua, and the other thing is Lua can be somewhat restrictive. Lua can, complex logic can cause problems. If I can write something in Node.js, Python,
as long
Golang, as long as I can compile it down to WebAssembly, guess what? I can be as complex as I want.
Yep.
Go. And that right there is why I think we're going to see a lot more adoption.
Yeah. I completely agree. I don't think there will be, like, I think outside of these various like integration points, the other nice place for it is like serverless.
Yeah.
And we sort of see some of that too with like Cloudflare and their
Cloudflare functions.
Yeah, whatever it is. But like either a serverless or other like small complementary.
Cloudflare. So they have Cloudflare workers and Cloudflare functions.
Okay. The other thing like that'd be a great like integration point for it is like admission controllers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being able to write an admission controller in your keyboard kind of does this because it's a policy enforcement engine, but like being able to do something like that for Kubernetes would be very useful. There's also multiple things now where you can basically run them and manage them like a container. I think it's Wasm Cloud or Wasm Edge or something like that allows you to basically treat it like a container runtime and manage the workload like you would a normal container in Kubernetes.
Yep. So yeah, I think Wasm's going to grow, just not as a complement, not necessarily as a whole new runtime.
Whole new ecosystem of stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't see that happening. Next up, I think the next big thing is not actually going to be because of technology. I think it's going to be because developer experience. I feel like
I agree. Like other people have sort of made the same argument for a lot of stuff, and I think they're dead on. Like
safe bets.
Yeah, safe bets. The whole you see the term like platform engineering, or DevOps has gone to like platform engineering.
Yep.
But in terms of reducing the cognitive workload on your developers and making it easier for them to do their job and integrate nicely with the actual like operational side of the stack. So like Backstage. So Backstage Con this year at KubeCon NA actually had the I believe it was the most attendees.
Yep.
And like I'm pretty sure it was either the most or like second most or something like that.
I think it was the most.
Oh, Cloud Native Security was number one.
Cloud Native Security was number two. That's why I was a little hesitant.
Yeah.
But there's a big reason, like there is now a Cloud Native Security Con that got spun out. Backstage is just exploding, and it's exploding because developer experience is the biggest thing that we can be focusing on right now. We have all of these really complex, complicated processes, distributed systems. We need to now make them more consumable or abstract them away from the developers so that the developers can actually focus on building the applications that they want.
Actually, one other comment on this. Some of the techs I've seen has been like trying to make it easier for developers to take like their Docker Compose or whatever it is and just convert it right to sort of the full like enterprise ready stack by having a command that just like converts it to like Helm templates and things like that. I think that is very much the wrong way of going about stuff.
I agree. As someone that many moons ago ran their home lab using Docker Compose files, and then when I decided to finally take the plunge and convert the home lab over to Kubernetes from just a bunch of Docker Compose files, you know what I did? I ran Compose, K.
Yeah.
Compose with a K. It worked, but not. I would never have thrown any of what it generated into production. Like it's just so much easier to. I guess for me, it's so much easier to learn what I need to write and then write it than like.
Yeah, and I don't think there's some stuff like templating out to Helm. I just don't think it's it'll work well for people that are getting started.
Yeah,
but not for actual, enterprises. Like small startups, maybe things like that, but not anything where they're actually having to manage groups of developers.
we have to go off script at some point. Do you think Helm will stick around?
Yes.
Do you think Helm is the right choice for packaging applications?
No. I think it is a pretty good way of being able to like sort of spin up and evaluate something. But like I don't think Helm like at least I'll say the Helm charts that people are picking up off the shelf are ever something I would use in production. I might use them to give an idea to do my own thing, but like most of the Helm charts are either too opinionated or too not opinionated. They haven't found like a good balance.
They haven't threaded the needle.
Yeah, they haven't threaded the needle, and it either doesn't work for me because it's too opinionated, or I'm having to literally configure everything anyway, and I might as well be writing the YAML to begin with.
Yeah.
That's just sort of my personal thoughts after having to deal with lots of Helm charts for a bit.
So, developer experience,
Yep.
probably a safe bet. We're going to see a significant amount of development effort and community effort, as well as I think new projects are going to spin up around it.
Yep.
Yep.
Mine big like definite safe bet is supply chain security will continue to sort of see like improvement.
Yep.
We're going to see a lot of like iterative improvement. I think the big thing next year is going to be more of a focus on usability. We've got a lot of the good base features down.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of a pain in the ass to actually like set up well and manage well.
My stupid analogy brain. We've got an engine, we've got a drivetrain, and there's some doors.
Yeah.
But we don't have AC or heat. We don't have a radio.
Yeah.
And the steering wheel is kind of like a stick.
Yeah. The other big thing, and we saw this ourselves and doing our own training, is there's like a lot of the content out there is really focusing either too low and deep diving into one area, or too high level for consumers and users to not do anything with it. And like it takes time to do a good like end-to-end like walkthrough and example, but that really needs to be out there more, or it needs to just be an absolutely seamless experience to see more adoption.
Yeah, I completely agree. Next up is you again.
Yeah. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more KCD events, community days. Just I'd say this in general, especially with how some of the KubeCon events are shifting. I don't like people. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I think having more local events makes it a lot more accessible to people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we would be where we are right now without our local events and like the connections that we made locally. Like, wow, what's the phrase? Think local, act global, or think global, act local.
Something like that.
I mean, the point is, you need to think at your like local scale, no matter what. It helps you grow out.
It's easier to find like local experts in those smaller groups and things like that. The one actually I think like difficult part coming from a company that has had to sponsor stuff, it's just like, okay, well, we're already spending a lot of money to sponsor KubeCon itself, and there's all these KCD events, is like, how do I actually decide what to sponsor?
Yeah.
And I think, well, if there's going to be lots of KCD events, there needs to be like, like how do I pick? How do we pick what ones do we sponsor
As a company,
as a company?
couldn't tell. But what I can tell you is a KCD needs a certain amount of sponsors in order for it to be a thing.
Yeah.
And so KCDs are Kubernetes Community Days. They are meant to be entirely community sponsored and managed events that the CNCF will kind of enable. We have like, I think, a toolbox with, you know, marketing material, boilerplate template, will help staff. It's not help staff. We'll like give them the framework, and events team will like be kind of reference points for them. But they're meant to be community run events.
Yep.
I think one of the intents, maybe it's unspoken, of KCDs is to try and get more local sponsors. Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, if Google wants to sponsor like a KCD or two, that's great. But I feel like if we're doing a KCD Minneapolis, we're trying to get
like Target.
Exactly. We're trying to get Target. We're trying to get Best Buy. We're trying to get Lifetime.
So the one thing I'll say to that is, again, being attached to a large company, I get KCD events reaching out to me personally, asking for sponsorship.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. I'm just saying, like, you know, maybe there needs to, like, if they want to have one, like, hey, look local first for sponsors or things like that.
That's actually really good feedback. I should give events for the template, because again, I don't know if it's like outright spoken or not, but it's KCDs are not where I would necessarily expect big clouds to be.
Yeah.
At least, you know, the top tier sponsor. Maybe you know, throw swag or something at them and you sponsored them, but
yeah. No, I have had multiple KCD events reach out to me personally.
Well, you are kind of,
I know,
a big deal. Focus on local sponsors. Batch and HPC.
This one I'm happy about. Like, you know, we have a research background, and we both have been pushing like Batch and HPC on top of like
years
for years now.
We have been like proponents and advocates. Yeah. Research computing on Kubernetes. We have been pushing for this for years, and in the last, I want to say, 2 years, it's really starting to take off.
Yep. So we're seeing more things mature. We're seeing, you know, Kubeflow is in the process of being donated to the CNCF. Like Kubernetes is going to be adding the concept of a queue and things like that to it. And I am.
Is that going directly into the scheduler? Or is it?
So at least right now, everything is being prototyped outside of core.
Okay.
We'll see if it winds up being like going mainline or not.
Okay.
But yeah, like I am happy that we're really starting to see this. The other thing is like managing devices has been kind of a pain, and we're seeing like Intel, Nvidia, and I think one other company were pushing like I don't remember the actual acronym for it, but like improving. I think it was like improving the container storage interface to actually support devices.
SRIB?
No,
not that.
No, but like basically making it easier to consume accelerators and things like that inside Kubernetes proper, and I am all about that.
NVIDIA Docker is still such a pain.
Do they even do that anymore?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like both our jobs are technically outside the research and batch space now. It's still like I'm still very passionate about it. It's still something like I follow closely.
I mean, honestly, I don't think I'll ever retire, but what I think I'll do is wind up going back into like the medical space. Like, It's
Except we're not going to try and do anything that would technically classify as a medical device again.
never again.
Never again.
Never again. Would you like to hear some of my bold predictions?
Sure.
So ChatGPT is the thing. ChatGPT is fascinating. Don't get me wrong. It actually excites the shit out of me. I am when Copilot came out and we got access, I was floored. And it's constantly getting better. I recently was writing I was updating this file and I wanted to like write a comment about what it did, and I just like 2 forward slashes and then the first letter and it wrote the comment for me, and I was like, holy shit. And like that's what got committed. And seeing ChatGPT and what it can do, it's exciting. It's crazy. I love it. I also think that it's going to very quickly get blocked or severely hindered by policy.
Yeah, I think it being blocked by policy is a safe prediction. I especially like with code spaces, or not code spaces, the Copilot pretty much replicating GPL license code after a few things.
Yeah.
Hard pass right now.
Well, I mean, I see like Stack Overflow going, if you use ChatGPT to, auto post something, you're going to get banned. Like, I am not talking about that kind of policy.
Yep.
I'm talking about like law.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
okay.
Like, I think there is going to be law or regulation.
Yeah,
regulation, I think, is better.
Yeah.
Put in place that limits the use of these like AI ops style things.
I'll even go beyond the AI stuff, the AI art stuff that we're seeing.
Yeah.
With like it just like basically recreating people's.
You're right. This isn't a bold prediction. Well, that's what happens. My other bold prediction,
Which I think is also a safe prediction.
but I think it's controversial.
Yeah.
I do think that. I think Kubernetes content, Kubernetes development, it's going to decrease because developer experience is going to take over. Now, and we both agree developer experience is going to be a significant focus next year and most definitely the year after that. But I do think if you watch the chart of like contributions to Kubernetes, I think you're going to see it.
We're already seeing it go down. Like,
well, then I guess I'm just really bad at bold predictions, Bob.
We've been hurting for maintainers and things for years now. And the biggest thing is like, Kubernetes is ubiquitous. But where like the value add is for companies and things like that is higher up the stack.
Yeah.
For a lot of stuff. And so for them, it makes more sense to work on the various operators and various things that are further up than it is the lower level stuff. It's the other thing with like to work at the lower level stuff, you generally have to be a lot more like there's significantly more I don't want to say like red tape, but a lot more that you have to do to become like a core Kubernetes maintainer, like someone that's in like a root approvers.
Yeah.
Or something like that in Kubernetes versus another project. And that takes like years. And it's usually...
And it's not a surefire thing, even if you show up.
And it's really only the, big vendors that depend on Kubernetes that can truly make that style commitment.
Yeah. Well, my bold predictions weren't very bold.
It's been a trend. And it's something I can actually, like, if I had time, I could pull up the dashboards and show it.
Looking at your bold prediction, that's not even bold either.
No,
we're both bad at this.
No, I told you I didn't have a bold prediction. I had something I thought would be like a talking point.
That's fair.
My bold prediction was just that like FinOps will become like a larger like or top priority of most of the companies out there. We've sort of seen, the people starting to adopt Kubernetes and adopt these things, and it's like, but they're really really not optimized.
No. I think like we have KubeCost is
Cloud
around.
Custodian,
Cloud Custodian was the next one I was gonna say. Like we
Google's Autopilot. There's all these things that are like doing a lot in terms of trying to do,
I mean, even like going back to registry.k8s.io, like honestly, you think about it, that's a FinOps operation.
Yeah.
Like that isn't we're trying to reduce or make more efficient the serving of these artifacts. No, it's like, no, we need to actually distribute this across
so we can save money.
Yeah, so like, well, I don't think overall there's going to necessarily be like a cost savings.
But we need to distribute the load.
We need to distribute the load, which I guess will.
And there is cost saving.
The egress.
Yeah, we lose the egress costs.
Yeah.
And for.
But that again, that's a FinOps play. Like that's like, make this more efficient. We're not going to reduce the load. If anything, load is going to increase.
Either way, we have the surge of groups that have adopted Kubernetes, and that's all well and good. And it's now we're like, okay, now that we've adopted Kubernetes, or before we can potentially really push this out wide, we need to make sure that we can implement some cost controls.
Yep.
And I think that will become a bigger thing for next year.
Yep. I mean, not necessarily like FinOps, but also like group ops. Bit of a tangent, but like looking at safe settings with GitHub, Electron Sheriff.
Oh yeah.
Even like Kubernetes having built Parabolos and Tempelis. Like, I don't know if we're going to see more of that in the immediate future, but I think more companies are going to potentially start looking at that, because as things grow and there's more complexity and there's more resource. I mean, I guess
we'll see what happens.
I guess like part of that is solved by Backstage, maybe.
The other thing is a lot of that stuff is solved when you have like AD or Google groups and actual like named individuals that you can have assigned identities.
Yeah.
And not so much in the
stupid open source and their stupid communities and their stupid complexities.
Yep. That'd be difficult.
Okay. That's it for our predictions. I'm still gonna ask a couple random questions.
Okay.
I know. We have gone longer than I already expected, but that's because we're long-winded and not very.
Yeah.
I did say I would cut us off at 3, and my goal was an hour. Realistically, I figured this was going to take almost 2.
Okay.
We have multiple D&D games coming up in the next couple weeks.
Yep.
What are you most excited about? And do not say Seeing Me Die.
Oh, honestly, I didn't even think of that one.
Sure.
You do die frequently, so we'll see what happens. Honestly, I would say, what else I could do to Moscow?
So one of Bob's characters has a familiar. We're going deep. You can summon a familiar if you are a warlock.
Mage. There's multiple things that you can technically have.
Yeah. You can summon them. You can also unsummon them. But for some reason, Bob's character does not know how to unsummon them. So he just... I'm trying to think of a not...
Kill it good.
He ends it. I mean, it's a fictitious and fantasy creature that you just resummon. There is a very interesting well-known story now in the world where for some reason uh Bob's character is beating the crap out of this octopus, which was his familiar, while a bunch of people are telling people to keep walking because it's in a weird alleyway
Outside of bathhouse.
outside a bathhouse. And now everyone knows Bob's character as that crazy dude that like beats up octopi.
Half naked gnome that was beating up an octopus outside a bathhouse. And it's not like the Way in the Deep did it.
No, no. You come up with some weird shit for your characters, man. um, what?
How about you?
Oh, what am I most excited about?
You're asking me all these questions.
That's fair. Yeah. So, I am really excited about what the hell is like going on in Jake's world. So, I like my character. I like Rikune, and I like his backstory. And I want to know how like my backstory is going to get involved in the world. I want to know just more about the world in general because it seems like he has put in so much effort in because like in one campaign it's completely homebrew world and we're 3 sessions in.
Yep, I think three or four.
Yeah. And it's just like elaborate maps, elaborate cities, backstories and everything. Yeah. I just like
our buddy Jake put a lot of work into like actually to crafting this world and it's fun.
So I am excited about finding out more. In this next session, I think we're traveling to a new continent and a new city, and it's the God wills it style of culture. Yeah. So that's what I'm most excited about. What is the thing you've enjoyed most about moving to Minnesota?
Better roads.
Oof.
And snow removal.
Damn. That's cutting deep. That's also like so freaking true.
Yeah. Ann Arbor, where we lived before, well, Michigan has terrible roads.
Yep.
But Ann Arbor was absolutely terrible when it came to snow removal.
It felt like they didn't do snow removal until there was 8 inches already on the ground.
Yeah, and then they put down a lot of salt and just hope that took care of it.
Whereas here it's like as long if there is 2 inches forecast, they'll actually like
they're proactive.
Yes. Yeah. And it's incredible.
So that might not necessarily be a thing that I like falls under enjoyed, but like
appreciate.
Definitely appreciate.
For me, the thing that I've enjoyed the most is in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor's a college town.
Yep.
It's not small, but it's small.
Yeah.
The closest like large city for us was Detroit. And it was about a 45 to hour and a half drive depending on traffic. Here, 20 minutes. I'm going to a hockey game. 20 minutes the other direction, I am in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
And I love the fact that within 20 to 30 minutes of a drive, traffic pending, not blizzard and not rush hour, but like normal driving within 20 to 30 minutes, I can get to, see, go anywhere. Like Susan and I went to a Punch Brothers concert middle of the week, and like doors were at 7. We were still home and in bed by 10:30.
Yeah,
like holy crap! Can you like imagine trying to do that when we were in Ann Arbor?
No,
like no. So it moving here opened up a lot.
Yeah,
just of like general. I mean, I'm not going to talk
social opportunities.
Not social opportunities. I mean, like, I'm not trying to count, like, hey, we moved closer to a bunch of other friends here. But what I am saying is...
you get the benefits of
entertainment opportunities.
Yeah, you get the benefits of being in or near a big city without actually having to be in the big city.
Right.
It's like honestly, one of the reasons why I like living outside Ann Arbor. It was close enough to Ann Arbor to enjoy Ann Arbor, but not have to deal with all the crap of living inside Ann Arbor.
And, like, if I wanted to open the blinds and then show the camera, it's like...
You have a good view.
good view, open area.
There's
like,
bald eagles.
There's bald eagles and shit, and like that's amazing. And then also a 25-minute drive, and I'm in St. Paul. 25-minute drive, I'm in Minneapolis. 25-minute drive, I am in the middle of a field, and I barely have signal.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect threaded needle for me.
You know the answer to this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there. What thing have you missed most about Michigan aside from Demos?
No, Meyer.
Oh, you're right.
Demos, we wouldn't like. I miss Demos, but Demos was closing anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Demos. So Demos was a donut and sandwich shop that we went to at least once a week when we lived about half a mile from it. And
Freaking amazing place. I used to live like literally right behind it. The owners were like family friends of my family.
And we went there all the time. We would go there on football game days. They would like shut down and regulars would be there. It would,
and when it means by saying like shut down and the regulars would be there, he'd lock the door and then bust out the bottle of whiskey. And then the what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so like the other thing is like in Michigan, like Fat Tuesday is a thing, and there's a thing called punchkis, and he called them.
It's a Polish thing.
Yeah, Polish thing, and they're called. He called them cholesterol tablets. And he'd literally be up for days.
Oh yeah, so there was one year I went to pick up these punchkis, and line is usually out the door at 6 a.m. and it was like I park, get out of the car, and the door is closed. And I'm like, interesting, but there's still people outside. Normally the door is open. They're airing out the place because it's so warm, right? And I get out of the car, and someone turns to me, and I'm like, okay. So I get in there. Apparently, he had been up for 40 fucking hours making about 10,000 punchkis, and he fell asleep under the desk. And they closed the door, and you walked in, name, and you would like whisper your name, and because it was pre-order only, and they would like hand you your thing, right? Like, yes, Demos, but you were right, Meyer. One of
probably my biggest complaint about moving is Michigan and some other states around there had this chain called Meijer, and it was like a super Target.
Yeah, so Meijer started on the west side of Michigan.
Yep.
And it's very much a Michigan like centric thing, but there's some in Ohio some in Indiana, and like they kind of emanate out. Yeah. But it's Super Target's a good example. It is a million reasons in a single store. I grew up going to Meijer.
Yeah, me too. And it was great because like
they had good produce. Like
a lot of their stuff too was like locally sourced.
Yep.
So everything, was very fresh. The Meijer brand stuff was like a very high quality and often higher quality than the like name brand stuff.
There were two Meijer brand things that were atrocious, and everything else was 2.5. Okay. Meijer brand ranch was amazing, and then they changed the supplier.
Yeah.
The Meijer brand coffee creamer that Susan and I bought, and we immediately threw away because it ruined a cup of coffee.
It was not good.
There was a third one. I can't remember what it was.
Like it was very good, and they had clothes, they had like everyday items and things like that there. I could literally, my usual shopping trip would be just to Costco and Meijer.
Same.
And here, like Super Target doesn't have everything. Like the trip that I could do previously in 2 trips, I'm now doing in like 3 to 4 trips.
And the other interesting thing was Meijer had a lot of fresh produce.
Yep.
But they also had a lot of herbs and a lot of like ethnic food.
Yeah.
Like you could get like curry supplies. You could get, Mexican food. You could get they had a lot of stuff. And here, it doesn't feel like everything. That's funny, Jake. Here, like, you have to go to Aldi for some things.
Yep.
Then you have to go to Fresh Time for some things, and then you have to go to maybe
Hy-Vee or
Hy-Vee.
and Target.
We were trying to find cubed ham for the soup.
Yeah.
Target didn't have it. Aldi didn't have it. Fresh Time didn't have it. Costco obviously didn't have it. There's one other place. We had to go to Walmart for it, and it's like, so sad.
So yeah, that would be the number one thing I miss is Meyer.
I agree, Meyer. I will say the other thing that I miss, up until recently, the other thing that I missed was there were so many Mediterranean places and Greek places. And I mean, like, that's just because the, like, southeastern Michigan is a lot of Mediterranean and Greek immigrants. And so the food there is so good. Susan and I found a place.
Yeah, you were telling me about it.
And, I want to go back.
Samos a run for the money.
Hand to God, I took 2 bites, looked at Susan, and was like, I hate saying this is better than Amos. And she was just like, really? Took a bite and went, so we'll go there.
Okay.
And you can judge.
Okay. I'll be the neutral third party.
You be the neutral third party.
You know who'd be the best person would be Ferret.
Ferret, yeah. Yeah. We need to get Ferret back out here.
Yeah.
We have run through pretty much everything. Believe it or not.
In an hour and a half.
In an hour and a half. That's about right.
Not bad.
No. One thing that I want to do is give thanks to everybody that we know, we're friends with, or haven't even met, but you managed to spend time and watch us ramble. We still have a bunch of the Bob and Jeefy stickers from CubeCon. DM either of us if you want one, and then we will make sure that you get one mailed to you, or more. Just ask.
Or find us at CubeCon EU.
Yeah, or find us at CubeCon EU because we'll probably have more there.
Potentially scaled. Well, there'll be more conferences here soon.
There will be more conferences. Other than that, I want to thank anyone that has watched or will watch this. You've watched us rant, hypothesize, tangent, ramble.
Yep.
If you've learned something or found something funny, that's honestly all we care about. But as they say, PRs are welcome, so if you have suggestions or feedback, if you think this is entertaining or educational, let us know, and we might do this again. This was
coupled together after a tweet.
This was scuffed.
Yeah.
This was 20 minutes in a Google Doc, and then I moved my computer down to the basement. I'm sure I will post pictures of this setup just so people can see.
Yeah.
Also, I want to show off the table that we built, but
cool.
Control Salt. Okay. I will give this one. Apparently, MN. So the Minnesota Department of Transportation has Name a Snowplow. And there are previous winners. The latest one, I'm guessing, is Control Salt Delete. Thank you for that one, Jake. Thank you, everyone that has watched or will watch. Love you all. Have a safe and happy holidays. Yep. Do stuff that we wouldn't do because we're pretty boring, honestly. So, peace.
Later.